Good morning, everybody. So this is actually my last coaching experience for 1 Million Cups, so I'm really excited. It is such a good one. I had the pleasure of meeting Christine a couple of months back, and she's got some really interesting information to share with us and a really fantastic business opening up here in Albuquerque. So without further ado, Christine Farley with Woven Therapeutics. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think we're back on.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for letting me be your first 1 Million Cups presentation for 2025. My name is Christine Farley. My pronouns are she and her. I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner here in New Mexico. I live in Albuquerque, so I can see clients in person in Albuquerque, and I serve the rest of the state through telehealth. I've been a nurse practitioner since 2016, and I have been a nurse since 2009. I'd like to start out with a land acknowledgement since we are here on territory that is not my ancestral homeland. This land belongs to the Navajo Nation, specifically the Mescalero Apache, the Fort Sill Apache, and the Jicarilla Apache, including the 19 pueblos, which are the Acoma, Cochiti, Isleta, Jemez, Kewa, Laguna, Nambe, Okeowinge, Curas, Powake, Sandia, San Felipe, San Ildefonso, Santa Ana, Santa Clara, Taos, Chisuki, Zuni, and Sia. Practiced. Disclosure about who I am and where I come from. I think it's important to acknowledge my advantages, privileges, and biases that might be shaping my work today. So I am, long story short, in love with my cats like any good parent. These are my children. I come from a fairly white and privileged economic background. So private education, all that jazz, we were parents. Woo! More generic geographic and academic pedigree, including what I like to do in my spare time, which is a lot of art, a lot of volunteering with harm reduction. I enjoy traveling. I go to conferences a lot. I love staying up to snuff on what's going on in my field so I can provide the best care for my clients. And this is our most recent iteration of our luchador art car in the Houston Art Car Parade, Consuelo, named after Todd's grandmother. And here we have modeled it after a flat bottom boat in Xochimilco, which is in Mexico City.
Oh,
okay.
Nice.
There's another wonderful piece of art by my colleague, Dr. Wani Zhao. I selected it because it's got these beautiful coyotes kind of talking together, and I felt that the coyote was rather representative of kind of my journey and the way I approach healthcare. The coyote represents tapping into the psyche, exploring the intuition, exploring the shadow side of things, and coming to a position where you're comfortable with that change and being comfortable with transformation and adaptation and growth. I also just wanted to include this really beautiful piece of art for my friend. Okay, last slide on who I am and who I am not. So I'm a medical provider. I have a medical background. I'm a nurse. I do not have a therapy background. I did not go to school for therapy. I've gone to continuing education for psychological therapeutic topics. I'm also a safe prescriber. I hold a DEA license, which puts me at some liability. So I am not sitting with clients doing their work. I'm not a guide or shaman. I don't have any ancestral wisdom to impart upon my clients. I am there to just make sure that they are taking their medication safely. I'm also ethical, so I talk about this in a lot of harm reduction perspective, but I am here in a professional capacity today. So we will talk about psychedelic therapies, but I do not condone any illegal activity. So my practice is based mostly like how I structured my education. First and foremost, I'm biological. I serve you with pharmaceuticals. So I'm working on a chemical level. I also recognize that psychiatry is a very imperfect science right now. We cannot take a section of your brain and be like, here's what's wrong with it, and here's how we treat it. So that leaves a little bit of room for magic, the unknown. You know, I don't know what I don't know, and I'm very aware of that. I'm also into making sure my clients know consent, what they are getting into, what these medications can do, how to stay safe with them and make sure that they have the best knowledge to make their choices. I want clients to have bodily autonomy about what they're putting in their body, even if I think it might be the best thing. Social aspects. I do think that if you are working on healing one person in the community, you are working on healing the community as a whole. Also, I want to make sure that my services and my treatments stay equal and accessible for everyone, no matter their background, and that is preserving health equity and health parity. Okay, so my clinic is called Woven Therapeutics. Why did I decide to call it woven? Well, in a lot of folklore, or you see an analogy of a tapestry as your life, and you are the weaver of that tapestry. You are the weaver of the loom. So the idea is that tapestry of our life is made of all these different threads of our connections between ourselves, our connections between our community, between the environment, and sometimes we have tears in those connections. We are disconnected. So the idea with this is that you can come in and have a safe place to repair your disconnections and your tears in your fabric. Again, this isn't some external entity coming in and fixing you or transforming you to someone that you haven't been before. This is you fixing you in a safe place with our guidance and help. Here's a list of services that I currently provide in white. I am just a medication management provider, outpatient, which treats basic, depression, anxiety, ADHD, psychosis. What I would like to provide is individual and group therapies with very talented individuals who have already gone through integration and preparation training, as well as ketamine therapy and community and complementary supports, meaning having things like yoga, sound baths, other things for wellness available in the clinic. So it's just a one-stop shop. You can come and have your medication managed, you can come and have your therapy sessions, and then you can come and have your extraneous activities, which are also good for your nervous system. All right, so we mentioned ketamine in the last slide. I'd like to explain a little bit about ketamine and how it is helpful with mental health. Ketamine is a very cheap, old school anesthetic. So it's super safe. We use it widely in children pediatric anesthesiology. Like you think when you're under anesthesia, you're out of body. So the ketamine is helping you get out of body and have a dissociative experience. Why that is helpful in mental health is because a lot of times we get stuck in what's called our default mode network. How I explain default mode network to clients is that if you walked in a figure 8 in the sand for 20 years, you're going to dig a hole in the sand that's the shape of a figure 8. And all of a sudden you're stuck in this hole and you can't see around you. And so ketamine helps pull you out of this hole so you can actually see or actually think about solutions to problems that you may not have even had access to before ketamine. On a biological level, on a molecular level, I'll get sciencey for just a second, so bear with me. It helps increase neurons, like their connections. It helps neuronal growth. It helps what's called neuroplasticity. So that changing and creating those new connections. And it does that by activating this NMDA receptor, which is cool because it's glutamatergic. Most of the antidepressants that we talk about are serotonin-based molecules, and this is working on a different neurotransmitter, glutamate, which is excitatory. It's also very important for memory and learning. And with that stimulation of the NMDA receptor, you get increased production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which is like fertilizer for your brain. So that's what's helping you grow those new connections, grow those neurons. In the acute setting or in an inpatient setting, they also give this for clients who are very suicidal, and this is through IV. You can have ketamine a myriad of ways. It comes in IV, intramuscular, intranasal, rectal, and sublingual. So in the hospital setting, insurance will actually cover it in a hospital setting for suicidality as well, which is also really cool. So difference between woven, the way I would like to structure my clinic and the way some of the other modalities are kind of being delivered right now. A lot of the clinics, you can go and get a ketamine infusion. Yay, you can be screened. This medicine is very safe for you, but you are not getting therapy. You're not getting any preparation or integration support, which I think is highly unethical. I would like my clinic to be much more comprehensive. I have modeled myself off of Dr. Rosalind Watts, who is a clinical psychologist through the Imperial College of London, who obviously Europe has done a little bit more research with psychedelic compounds. She's developed the ACE model, which is accept, connect, and embody. And she starts with people go and they have a group, and then each month you have a new theme, and that theme or that month and this cohesion is to help you have that integration and support for all this difficult work that you're doing. So she structured her monthly program with trees as the theme because she's very into trees. I would like to structure mine using values from acceptance and commitment therapy. And the idea is that anyone can access this component of the clinic. You do not have to be getting ketamine at the clinic in order to come in and be part of these monthly integration circles or this monthly program. It's very, sometimes you might tap out for a while and feel like, okay, I've had enough medicine for a minute. I think I'm just gonna do this integration or just do the circles. And so I want that to be available. I want it to be available if you're doing your work with your own provider in the community, so you can still come in and access this to help you. Ideally, it would be like a seasonal cohort starting, so we'd 4 times a year, and then also offering process groups for particular groups such as the end of life, cancer survivors, first responders, so that they can have a group where they are recognized and seen and kind of support each other together. I think that's the last slide. I had a challenge, oh, my goal slide. Some more beautiful art by my friend Sasha. I would like to expand into Colorado. I've got some colleagues in Colorado who are also interested in building out a clinic as such. I would like to develop a 501c3 branch of my clinic. There are nonprofit ketamine clinics going on in Chicago and Seattle right now, so where everyone can come in and access it under scholarship, so you don't even have to pay 100% free. So I'd like to get to a point where I can do that. And also group administration. So group administration means having a group of people and dosing them all together, which you can see would be a little maybe tenuous depending upon personality. However, in the wild, when you are working with these compounds, you are often with a group when you are taking these together. So I think there is a part of the medicine that we are missing out on by kind of not having that. But again, they're researching this. There's always more and more coming into it. Every time I go to a conference, I'm like, hey, what's up with that group administration? How you guys doing? So it's coming down the pipeline. I had a challenges slide, basically funding. We have CPT codes, which is how I get money from the insurance for psychedelic therapy. However, I have yet to test the patency of these codes, meaning will the insurance actually give me money? Hopefully that will change. Again, they just got approved at the beginning of 2024, so this is coming up hopefully. All right.
If we want to line up, if anybody's got any questions or thoughts or anything for Christine over here, I'm going to switch with you because I'm going to get us started. Thank you for that, number one, and congratulations on getting all of this going here. I have a question specifically regarding your idea around group administration with dissociatives like ketamine as opposed to traditional psychedelics, which have been done traditionally in a group setting.
Yes, and I think this is kind of where the research is coming in. I think a lot of the research has been with psilocybin, and then there is some baseline ketamine research coming out with it. But you're right, because people are different when you're having something that's maybe more activating or like a psilocybin or a peyote or something like that versus ketamine, which kind of takes you out and you're not up and dancing or drumming or doing any of that. So there is some difference with that. I'm curious to see how it kind of plays out with safety protocols. They are looking at group administration and a lot of veterans work is where I see the main bulk of the research. Utah also had some for, I think it might have even been LSD for breast cancer survivors. So I thought that was pretty neat too. So yes, a different flavor, but I still, think that there's a part of the medicine to include with that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paul Sauter with Equisy, demonstrating microphone technique, point the mic straight at your mouth and say who you're with. Okay, so you started it, you said a geeky thing, so I have a geeky question. So since ketamine acts on NMDA patients, I'm asking, they could also be taking SSRIs at the same time, couldn't they?
So this is one of the benefits of ketamine is that you don't have to wash out on your SSRI while doing it. So if you were to do something like psilocybin is a serotonergic medicine. LSD is serotonergic. So what happens is you get a muted effect generally. So ketamine is nice because you do not have to wash out on those. A lot of people, I mean, would be destabilized if you had to do that. So this is like why it's a good option. It does have some medication interactions, but less so than the other classic psychedelics.
Thank you.
Hi, Celia, Emily. I have a question, well, related to a friend and the cost of the therapy. Since she happens to be on Medicaid and doesn't think it's gonna be covered, what is the cost for medication and the group therapy components, both of them separately or together?
So the actual cost of ketamine, the drug, is really cheap. So this is where we have our saving grace. So those troches, like the sublinguals, cost like $5 a piece. Even running an IV costs us like $11 total. It's a really affordable medication. What's expensive is the therapist's time to sit with the supervising, which is why the group administration is kind of nice, because you're reducing that time and that one-on-one time. They're still kind of hammering out, I think, the CPT codes again to make this more affordable. And trying to think of what else to throw in on there. I think this is why the scholarship programs are important, so that people can have access to that therapy, because generally you are paying, you could maybe get like an hour of therapy that's covered by your insurance, but the second hour at least, you're gonna have to do cash pay, which is why it's really important to develop a scholarship for clients so that there's health parity and equity.
So to clarify, she does have access to free therapy through Medicaid. That, you know, and a lot of people do in New Mexico, you know, basically therapy is free for anybody with insurance from a small business or from the health insurance exchange. So we're really lucky in this state. So is it possible to walk into your clinic and get a program of just the medication?
So with the sublingual administration, you can take it at home. I could send it and you could take it at home. There's a high liability in that, and I don't prescribe that way. So the only thing that she would actually end up paying for would be the second hour of therapy, right? It's because the time of onset, it's kind of you know, have a ascent, you have a plateau, and you have a descent, and that takes about 2 hours. So unless, which there might be a way to do this with the CPT codes that are coming out to bill for that second hour as well. So, you know, she would have cheap medicine and then have to figure out like a sliding scale right now for the second hour of therapy.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Good morning, Christine.
Good morning.
I really loved your presentation.
Thank you.
My name's JP, Enchanted Lands Music. So I have three quick points. First of all, I love the integration of science and art. Art as metaphors for the work that you're doing. I'm an artist, I'm a musician, and I have kind of scientific aspirations. And so I think that's awesome to kind of appeal to people on those levels, because I think through art, you know, we can do therapies and we can like create things and in process. And then science gives us the understanding on how to do that, right? So the second thing is I'm friends with Laura Berg, who goes by EO, and she's doing the psilocybin study at UNM. And so if that's something that you'd like to talk to her, she's a nurse, and she's been working with sacred medicines for quite a long time. You could have a conversation with her and see maybe if there's a collaborative thing.
Sure. Yeah, I'm excited. New Mexico is definitely planning to have a psilocybin psychedelic program. Oregon has developed theirs, Colorado, and now New Mexico is on our way to developing ours. So I come from Texas, and I'm very grateful to be in New Mexico, where there is a little bit more credence given to these therapies.
Right. And then lastly, I do the crystal sound bath. I've upgraded this year to cacao sound bath. So it's still
Nice.
CSB, but we're doing cacao ceremony with it.
Very good.
Leah came to the one on the solstice, and I'm very excited about kind of moving in my 7th year doing this work. It's not like a business per se, that I feel it's like my medicine. You know, I have Cherokee ancestry that I kind of bring into the modern world. And I really believe on being on the sacred land that we're on how to connect with the sacred land, and then discovering about cacao, especially like in the Middle and South America, how that's it's such an important medicine from the land that's been kind of utilized differently in the Western culture as kind of a novelty, really is a sacred medicine. And so I'm bringing that into the work, and I'd love to be able to collaborate with you on one of those ceremonies.
Sure. I like collaboration. I love anything that is working with the subconscious. I think you were talking about art, so I agree that there is subconscious stuff that, we are not aware of, and using art helps us kind of become aware of that and maybe bring it into our life.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
My name is Brooke. I own Death Doula Professionals. I'd like to thank you for coming today and sharing your story. It's nice to see some differences in our presenters. I have two-part question for you. How do you get your clients? And what is your ideal client?
I have a profile on Psychology Today, which yields most of my clients. And then, New Mexico is very word of mouth, which is also really great for building a business. It was not like that in Houston. So that's how I get most of my clients. And then, sorry, what was the second part?
What is your
Ideal client. Well, I guess that's really hard. I think, okay, so I'll give you my future ideal client. What I really love and what I've wanted to do for a long time is build out a program to work with people who were formerly incarcerated. There is a body of research that talks about a reduction in recidivism. Shocking, when you treat people with psychedelics for trauma, they might not go back to jail. So I'd really like to open that, and I'd really like to get some sort of contract direct pipeline for these people on probation to have the permission to come in and do this work. And again, kind of under the guise of like, but they won't be repeat offenders, give us money.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Congratulations for throwing that out there, everybody. Thank you very much.
Hi, Christine.
Hi.
I'm Dr. Norm. My company is Brain Health with Dr. Norm, and I'm in the dementia prevention business. As you probably know that if we do not keep our brain engaged, we have a tendency to have a reduction in neurons. But if we can do things like dancing, playing a musical instrument, learning a new language, or things like that, we can increase our neuroplasticity big time. So I'm wondering, on the ketamine issue, there's probably no research on it, but I'm just curious if you have any insights so that my audience of people who are either concerned about getting dementia or who might have early stage Alzheimer's, do you know if the ketamine might increase some neuroplasticity in a way that might reduce their cognitive decline?
So I will say that there is research with ketamine with traumatic brain injury with the for that specific purpose of it being neuroplastic, helping neurogenesis. With dementia, I'm not 100 about the research. Psychedelic Alpha is a website that has all things research, legal, everything. It's a wonderful site to go just check that out or double check if there's research going on. With dementia and maybe Alzheimer's, I would be a little bit, because of the plaques and the way that the proteins tangle in your brain when that happens, I don't think ketamine is going to help with some of that. So you might be building more, but it might not be, it might still be an uphill battle because of the other things going on with that disease process, would be my just off the cuff.
Thank you. I agree with you on the plaquing and the tangles and all that stuff, but the neuroscientist that did the movie, I forgot her name, she's the one that, anybody remember the name of that neuroscientist that did the movie on developing dementia and Alzheimer's? Anyway, she did a TED talk on it, and she made it a point that even if you have the tangles and the plaquing, that by getting the neuroplasticity ahead of time, you can, do roundabout ways of developing those neurons so that even if you do get full-blown Alzheimer's, you have some memory. And I'm going way too deep for the topic here, but anyway.
Well, I'll say one more thing about that too. What I tell clients, what they've looked at with dementia and Alzheimer's, what helps prevent that is gratitude and connectedness. So being around other people and then just practicing gratitude actually will help kind of preserve some of those connections in the brain, which I thought was really nice. So the worst thing you want to do is become a resentful, bitter old person that lives by themselves.
Well, thank you very much. It's very enlightening.
Thank you. All right, thank you guys.
So Christine, a lot of people, when they hear the word ketamine, they think of Matthew Perry. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on what happened with him and, was he not being treated properly? Like what happened there?
So it's not hard to get a prescription for ketamine. And this is why I will not send it home with clients, because you just don't know. Even if that person is experienced, you don't know who's gonna come knocking on their door. You don't know if they decided to go eat something and now they've choked on something while they were under the influence of ketamine, and that's on you. I have a DEA license, and really what I would like to do is not also get sued by clients. So me being safe and prescribing safely, I would aim to hopefully not do that. You can check and see on prescription drugs, like what other prescription drugs people are taking for the most part, with the exception of methadone in some clients. So you can hopefully ensure that they're not using, an opiate. You can do drug tests beforehand. So there are some safeguards in place to make sure that that does not happen. It does increase respiratory depression, so this is and you are in a dissociative state. I think Meow Wolf is making a water park in Austin. And we'll just see how long it takes until someone drops.
Interesting. Okay, I had one more question and now I lost it. You didn't share your website, but do you have information about your circle groups and anything yet on your website?
I don't think I have, well, no, that's a lie. I do have some community resources on my website. So I have a link to talk to Dr. Wani Zhao, who is trained in integration and preparation work. I have a link to talk to Liz Diesel, who is an LCSW, also trained in integration and preparation work. We haven't started any circles. I actually just rent an office per diem right now. I am looking for a more permanent space so that I can actually kind of get the rest of the program going.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you.
Hello, Miriam Ortiz-Pino with More Than Organized. You seem to have a really good handle on your current clients and what you're actually providing. And then you had 3 other lists of things you want to provide. And I'm wondering what your process is for getting there.
First step is an office. First step is I need a physical location to actually administer ketamine in a comfortable, safe environment, focusing on lighting, sound, a place where people can come in and kind of have that safe ritual. So that's one. I've got my pairings with my individual therapists right now. We haven't set up our contract to do group therapies or anything of that nature, basically because we don't have a space yet. But I have a CRNA who's also wanting to work with me for the infusion portion. And then I've found a psychologist and the LCSW who want to work with me who are trained. So we've got the people.
Okay, so sounds like you're relying on them for their qualifications to provide the thing and you're going to administer?
100%.
Okay.
I have very little interest sitting with clients and doing the thing because that is not my strength. My strength is like, let's talk about drugs and how they affect you and all this other jazz, right? So I am delegating as opposed to me spending time in my own enrichment education. I'd rather have people who have more experience and who are just better at sitting one-on-one. I'm a little blunt a lot of the time, which could maybe be less than therapeutic in a setting like that. But it's really good when you're a medication prescriber and you're like, no, we have to have boundaries with drugs because this is dangerous. So
I'm familiar with that. Okay, thank you. And thanks for the clarification on that. Good luck.
So when it comes to safety, how are you gonna handle that? Because there is people in like the history of using ketamine who've had really, really bad negative effects to it. So how are you gonna like delegate through that and handle those people who completely kind of lose it in a way, because some people don't have the mental fortitude to handle that sort of drug, but they don't know it at that time.
sure. There is a kind of line of thinking in psychedelic therapy that the harder the trip, or if you have a bad trip, that it actually has a larger payoff. Like the idea is like, it's really crappy to go through, but in the end, you're gonna have a wider perspective. So there are medications that can be given. You do watch blood pressure. So we have blood pressure medicine if your blood pressure is starting to spike that we can give you. We have benzodiazepines to give if you are having some anxiety and need to calm down, that are safely administered with the ketamine. So there are ways to kind of help that. I do tell people though, when they're undergoing therapy, that they probably need to have at least one trip that was hard or difficult, and it is distressing in the moment. And the anesthetic effect of the ketamine, you're hopefully not going to remember how distressing it was. You're going to be like, wow, I cried a lot, but I don't really remember why. So that's beneficial as well. So that making sure the room doesn't have something that they can hurt themselves with if they are out of it. Generally, you're like in a chair and you're probably not able to get out of the chair, but just in case. So I've got kind of that idea, and definitely the supervision. This is why you don't give it at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know if they're gonna have a reaction like that, and then they don't have any PRN meds or anyone to help them.
Of course, and I've seen multiple occasions of people actually like hurting themselves really, really bad by jumping through windows or even completely losing it and leaving their own home and not understanding why.
There was a case in Albuquerque where a lady went home and set herself on fire. So like, it's real, the danger is real, you need to be supervised, and it ain't nothing to play around with, for real. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we have two final questions for you. And actually, I wanted to throw in one quick comment on one thing that you said that I loved. For anybody familiar with the gentleman named Gabor Mate, he's a trauma therapist and MD himself, and he says that there's no such thing as a bad trip. They're only not well-supported experiences. And so when properly prepared and integrated and supported throughout the journey, bad trip isn't really so much a thing anymore. Wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Our final questions for you. What is the one thing that this community can do for you today?
I would love if anyone has a skinny on an office for me.
Perfect. We're looking for office space. All right, and then the New Mexico State question, red or green?
Oh, God. Red.
Question mark. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll pass it back off to you first.